I will never forget the moment that my first girlfriend refused to kiss me. I imagine as I say that, you're probably instantly thinking about clicking that little red cross in the corner of your screen. You're thinking about shutting this window and you're wondering to yourself, what relevance is this man's girlfriend refusing to kiss him gonna have on my dating life whatsoever? Well, in this video, I'm gonna introduce you to the concept of a character that you created in the first 16 years of your life. A character that has probably influenced and manipulated your love life, your dating life, and probably every relationship you've been in since its creation. So let's take it right back to the beginning and let's think about the creation of that character. It's gonna begin from the moment that you're born. Reason being, you're already beginning to come into contact with other human beings. For most people, it's gonna be your parents. And we know from psychology and we know from therapy just how important the relationship between a parent and a child is. In fact, it's the relationship that you have with your parents which will largely shape your physical, emotional, and social development. And this will then in turn lay the foundation for your views, your morals, your personality, and many of your behaviors. We also know that a positive relationship between parent and child is associated with higher levels of self-esteem, better relationships, and more life satisfaction when it comes to adult life. So what significance does this have? Within the first 3 to 5 years of your life, your personality is already beginning to emerge. This period in your life is when you as a child begin to see for the first time what a relationship should look like. Well, at least you see your parents' relationship, you internalize that as the norm, and you decide that that's what you think it should look like. And it is really, really significant now to say that this is when you begin to think about aspirational qualities and how you should be in your future relationships. So you may begin to look at your same-sex parent, i.e. a son to his father, or i.e. a daughter to their mother. You'll begin to look at that same-sex parent, you'll either begin to see them as a role model and having aspirational qualities, or you'll begin to see them as something that you don't want to become. You'll also look at your opposite sex parent and you'll see the positive traits in them, and there'll be traits that you then want to find in a potential partner and in a potential relationship. So think about it like this. You're beginning to go into your adult life with a preconceived idea of who you think you should be in a relationship, the type of relationship you should want, and the type of partner that you should want. And the scary thing about this is that at this point, you don't even really know what a relationship is. You don't even know what you're attracted to. And you certainly don't even know who you are well enough to decide what you think you want in a relationship and what you think you should have in a relationship. So you're going into adult life, playing out a kind of relationship script that you decided and you created as a child. So the next phase of your life that you find yourself in is likely to be school. Now, for some people, school can be a really, really amazing time. Just because it's the first time that you begin to make friends, and it's the first time that you begin to have a constant network of social support around you. For others, unfortunately, school can actually be a really, really hard time. And I'm thinking largely of bullying when I reference this. Bullying can, of course, take many forms, from really strong physical abuse to strong emotional name calling and things of that nature. But I think what is so relevant to say at this point is that for a lot of kids, when they start school, they haven't necessarily developed the social calibration, the strong mental frame, or the emotional kind of intelligence or strength and resilience to really differentiate between just name calling in a playful way versus actual bullying with malicious intent behind it. So I'm going to reference myself now. I was never bullied as a child at all, and I had a really, really good time at school in most cases. But throughout my time at school, I was sometimes referred to as ugly, and I was sometimes referred to as quiet. And this meant that when I progressed through adolescence and then when I progressed into my adult life, I actually held onto that. And there was a part of me that always believed that I was ugly. And there was a part of me that really actually struggled to speak up just because I'd been told so many times that I was quiet. And I can remember how shocked I was when I actually began to hear people refer to me as physically attractive, just because it completely challenged the very negative narrative of myself that I'd created. We as human beings are drawn to people that meet our emotional needs. And on one hand, that can lead to some really, really good friendships. It can lead to a lot of really good, deep conversations. But on the other hand, if there's a sexual spark, it can often draw us into relationships that are absolutely terrible matches for us. And the reason being is you're starting a relationship with somebody because it's addressing a physical and emotional support need that you have, rather than being the type of relationship where the two of you are really growing and really developing. So then we come to the final part of the development of your character. And this is kind of like the icing on the cake. This is likely to take place between the ages of about 13 and 17. And this is for that first time when you really come into contact with somebody in a romantic sense. So I'm gonna tell you the story that's gonna link back to the first line of this video. At the age of 15, I was in a relationship with a girl that I was madly in love with. And we hadn't actually kissed at all. We'd hugged, but we'd not actually kissed. And this is just the one thing that I wanted more than anything in my life at that point. So much so that I was writing her love notes, I was telling her I loved her, and I even wrote a song with a rap that was about 3.5 minutes long. So I was just so keen to make it work with her. At this point in my life, I felt completely inadequate next to this girl. And there was one particular night which really impacted on that and really reinforced that narrative. The two of us went to a house party, and at this house party, I didn't know anybody. I was terrified before I went, and walking in, I felt even more terrified because I didn't know anybody. And I didn't even see her. She just left, she was off with her friends, and I just found a lot of time on my own. I tried to push through it, but I just didn't have the social skills or the confidence to really, to really get anywhere. After the house party, her dad dropped me home, and he dropped her off outside the car as well so she could say goodbye to me. Then he would sort of drive around to give us time to say the goodbye. And I was so keen to kiss her that night that I knew I had to do it. So I turned to her and I said, "You're going away on holiday tomorrow, so I'm gonna kiss you tonight." She looked me up and down and she said, "Alex, I'm not gonna kiss you tonight. It's not the right moment." The feeling that I had that day and that night when I came home, I can still remember now. I was a mixture of hurt because I'd given everything in my mind to this girl. I'd completely laid myself out there. I told her my really strong feelings for her. I was a mixture of rejected because I just knew how much I wanted it to work with this girl, and I knew how much she didn't want to make it work with me. And it was just, I put myself out there so much that to have someone say they didn't want me just left me feeling so unwanted. In that moment, when I was at my most hurt, I made a decision that would shape the rest of my dating life. I decided that I was never going to let anybody reject me, and I was never going to put myself out there for anybody again. So what relevance does that have to you? Well, in this video, we discussed the creation of a character, and we discussed where that character comes from. And I think we can see from my story, that's not a character that you want to have in your dating life. I don't want you to be like me. I don't want you to walk around with some narrative that's stopping you meeting the right person for you. I mean, look, I was walking around with some kind of badge of honor, some suit of armor saying, "I'm Alex Cross, I don't get rejected. I'm Alex Cross, I don't put myself out there." And essentially, what did that mean for me? It meant there was a lot of opportunities that I passed up with people that could have been a great match for me. It meant that I didn't even want to approach people in real life in case I got rejected. And it meant that in a lot of my earlier relationships, I didn't even invest myself emotionally because I didn't want to get rejected. I don't want the same for you. I don't want the same for anybody. So if you can think of something, some tiny little thing that happened in your life that you've never thought about up until this point, I would ask you now to really introspectively reflect on that. Think about what happened and just understand the meaning that you had from that is wrong. Then just throw that shit away and just get yourself ready to move away from it. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, I am now offering one-on-one coaching at the email address below. If you really liked it, please can I ask you to click like and subscribe down below. Thank you so much for watching.